Some of the old risks are still there. By the way, we're still facing a serious CFT risk, terrorism risk, as you're aware. Banking is still considered it's a high risk area. And we have to mitigate that high risk in terms of the controls we deploy. So we have to be on our toes. And CFT is a risk that continues, and in fact, it is ever evolving. The other risks that we're confronting are linked to the economic situation. This is an economic situation happening in a country which has a large informal economy, tax evasion. There's a culture to hide and do cash transactions. So in this environment, and especially in inflationary circumstances, so we are seeing the risks that are supporting people in terms of their ambitions that would evolve or occur outside the purview of legitimate business environment or regulatory environment. There is crypto risk, and cyber risk is still ever high. And what is more important now is that whoever thought that fraud risk or compliance risk are two separate risks, or AML risk are two separate things, this distinction has to end now. So unless and until you are aware of the trends that are happening on the fraud side, you just can't fathom exactly the whole nature of AML and financial crime story that is happening around you. So in Pakistani market, the risk has heightened. It's recognized by NRA, and frankly speaking, out of FATF, it's not something to be rejoicing about. I think we need, all industry players have to be on our toes, because this is a country with hostile neighbors. This is a country prone to terrorism. This is a country prone to financial crime due to the things that are happening in the country. So in terms of fraud risk, there are a lot of new risks that are evolving. Phishing has taken a new shape that we are learning to cope. We always are on our toes, because there are new trends that are happening, probably, if not every month, every week, if not every week, every month. And some of the things like the social engineering part, which is considered as social engineering, and that's something, sharing of passwords, it's gone much beyond that. Now the techies are using, even, would you believe, generative AI for their nefarious designs. And once that happens, the bank has to ask, are we ready for that kind of social engineering ingenuity or innovative approach? Because at the end of the day, it's the customer that is suffering. And the loss is, whether you like it or not, it's yours. You can't pass on every loss to the customer saying that this is your fault. So we have to take care of social engineering. So a lot of evolution is taking place. A lot of new kind of frauds are evolving from the previous nature of frauds, and social engineering is one. There are other categories of frauds in credit cards. There are other categories of fraud in digital sphere that we have to be ever ready about. What is important for us is to be aware of what kind of these frauds. So it's very important for us to be actually talking to industry, not only Pakistan industry, but elsewhere as well. What is important here is that the product, for example, if we're developing a digital product where I think the highest quantum of possible risk can reside in terms of fraud or financial crime, we have to be very, very careful in kind of the programs that we're making. And there are a lot of sweat and blood that must go into the reviews of those products. Capacity can be defined in two terms. One is the technological aspect of it. The other is the human aspect. So capacity is a strange concept in compliance. Once you talk about capacity, you also talk about smartness of the tools that you have. So one has to be cognizant of what exactly is required by a bank. In terms of capacity, we feel that we have to be smart. So we have to be smart in terms of the capabilities that we have. So in terms of tools that we have, we are looking for tools that are smarter, which help our team to do their job better in a way which is more efficient. So we that is one aspect of it, the technological aspect of it. Then there's the human aspect in terms of capacity. How to deal with capacity is important. One answer is just keep hiring people and increasing the HR side of things. That is, I think, is worsening the problem. You have to make your analysts smarter, picking things up in a small bit of time, because the challenge is immense in the sense that so many accounts, there are millions of accounts, and you just can't really be out of focus. If you are giving same kind of attention to every alert, then there's a problem. And if there are alerts happening in every account, that's also a problem. So one has to be looking at these things very rationally, and somebody has to take a step back and look at what kind of information, compliance rich information or AML rich information is being or not being generated at compliance. And that analysis is very important. And that's where we miss the trick at times. Yeah, data, I think, is a wealth that is lying unutilized. It's so beneficial even for businesses and also for us. So that information is there. We need to tap it. And that tapping has, to be very honest, hasn't really occurred. There are so many exploitation that can utilize to your advantage. If you have a setup in the bank, not necessarily in a certain group, but you can always leverage, and you set out yourself this objective and reach out to those departments where this expertise lies, where your data analytical skills on a most advanced stage or ability is there. We should leverage and we should not shy away. So only yesterday I was looking at the kind of data and rich data that was being generated in terms of that product support. Why can't we use it from there? And I think it's not necessary that every group head should have their own data scientist. Start leveraging the other departments. So I think that is one area. The other data that usefulness is through the system that we already have. And sometimes the systems can reside elsewhere as well, but you can utilize the system that is tapping into your data. And I give you example. For example, the fraud system, perhaps it will be more widespread within the data streams that you have into your core. And why can't you use the fraud system and use it for the financial crime purposes? Yeah, investment, I think one investment area is very important, which is whatever we do needs to be validated in terms of what we have implemented. Sometimes those validations, expertise does not lie within the organization. Sometimes there are conflicts of interest, and sometimes the capacity is not there. The other area is where there are still lack of red tags. For example, if there is a gap in an organization in terms of trade, those areas have to be enhanced. So financial crime, AML, and compliance risks will always be there, and in fact, your ability will always be doing a catch-up. And those pieces that you've not been able to cover, that is where the cost that's a cost you should absolutely incur without thinking twice. So within, for example, trade, you can have a screening tool, fine, but you should also have a vessel tracking tool. You should also have tools like checking whether this bill of lading is genuine or not. So there are a lot of things you can do within trade. And there is transaction monitoring side, or exclusive side of monitoring you should do for trade. Exclusive monitoring you can do for remittances. So so on and so forth. There are areas that you always like to plug. And once you do that risk-based analysis, you'll find out where that real gaps are most urgently need to be fulfilled. And lastly, where this AI ability can be brought into the organization in terms of analyzing data that you have and in terms of improving or reducing or mitigating the risk.